All right, Jim, now keep this with your stuff. You've told me your name, James D., and your middle name is?
D-U-N-N, Dunn.
Dunn Kricker.
Correct.
And when were you born again?
February the 27th, 1934.
Okay. Now keep that with your stuff, and when your great-greats find this 100 years from now, they'll go down to the library and take a look at you.
That's correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your military, but what I like to do is get a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you born?
Here in Portsmouth, Ohio.
Okay. And your present address is here on Sheridan at 3695 Sheridan Street.
Sheridan Road.
In Portsmouth, Ohio. And in fact, we're at your house right now,
yes,
taping this.
Mm-hmm.
And are you retired?
Yes.
Retired from where?
Charter One Bank.
Okay.
Right.
You were a banking person.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How much education do you have?
I have a college education.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where did you graduate from?
The University of Dayton.
Okay. And are you married, single, divorced, widowed, separated?
Single.
All the above? Or single name.
Right.
Okay. And now, what was your father's name?
Louis T. Kricker.
Okay. And your mother's name?
Jean Fairtrace Kricker.
Fairtrace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember Fairtrace shoes.
That was my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
That originally, right.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, let's see how far we... What about your father's parents' names?
George E.
Mm-hmm.
Kricker was the father, and the mother's name was, always called her Belle Kricker.
Okay. What was her maiden name?
Wow. I have to think about that.
You didn't know there'd be a test, did you?
Yeah, no. My grandmother's maiden name, that was...
Well, if you think about it, pop
it'll
right
come,
out.
It'll come to me. Yeah.
Where were they from?
Well, here in the United
Portsmouth
States.
area, or
yeah, Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Now, your mother's parents' names, what were they?
Let's see. My mother's parents' name was Margaret and Henry.
Henry. Now, Henry was the shoeman.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did that involve? Was he retail or did he produce?
Well, originally he was a leather buyer for one of the old shoe manufacturing companies here in town, and then he ended up opening shoe stores. At one time he had 3 shoe stores, one in Chillicothe, one here, and I think one down maybe in Vanceburg.
Oh, I see.
And he sold new shoes and he repaired shoes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Interesting. Then, let's see now, do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have 2 older brothers.
And what do they do? Where are they?
They're both deceased.
They are deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your father, what did your father do?
Well, he worked at the George E. Kricker Company, First Federal Savings Loan, which became Charter One Bank through the years.
Now, what was his name again?
Louis T.
T. Who was Edmund?
He was my uncle.
That was your uncle?
Yes.
I remember him from insurance, don't I?
Well, from insurance and First Federal Savings.
Okay. Do you have any children?
No, I do not. I've never been married.
You have nieces and nephews?
Yeah, I have a niece and a nephew.
And where are they?
The nephew is in North Carolina. He's a major in the Air Force.
What's his name?
James.
James? Okay.
And I have a niece in California. Her name is Christine.
Okay. And, well, okay, great. Now, you were in the service.
Yes.
Okay. Were you in the Air Force?
No, the United States Army.
You were in the Army. And when did you enlist? Were you drafted or what?
Well, I enlisted, but upon my college graduation in those days, and that was in 1956, the draft was present then.
Okay.
And I had found out that as soon as I was graduate, of course, I was subject to the draft. I had a deferment as long as I was in college and kept my grades up, which of course I was able to do. And as soon as I got out of, graduated from the University of Dayton, I thought, well, I want to go ahead and get this service over. And I talked with the draft board, as I recall, on the They said, well, it might be, you're going to be called, but it might be 6 months. I thought, well, I don't want to wait for that. So my dad was a friend of the local Army recruiter, and he had done some investigation and said, well, Jim, since you had 2.5 years at ROTC, we can enlist you into the Army Reserve and have you go on duty right away, and we'll give you the rank of PFC to start with. Well, that sounds like a good deal. So I did that.
Okay, good. And when did you go in? Was that 56 or 7?
1956, and I believe it was late June or early July.
Okay. When did you get out?
I got out in 1958.
And what was your rank when you got out?
I was a specialist second class. That was equivalent to an E5, a sergeant.
Okay. Now, where did you go for your basic training?
Well, I received orders to go to out to darn it.
A lot of people went to Fort Knox.
Well, I thought I'd go there. I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Leonard Wood. You want to get that? I can.
That's okay. And but we were only there 3 days. And one morning they woke us up, and Greyhound buses were out there. It was in the dark 30 in the morning.
Leave message after tone.
And we went to Fort Knox.
Then you went to Fort Knox.
An all-day long drive. First air-conditioned bus I was ever on.
3 days at Fort Leonard Wood for your
3 or
basic,
4
and then you
days.
went to Fort Knox. Okay.
Something was wrong somewhere,
I
but
don't
we ended
know.
up with basic training at Fort Knox.
Yes, the Army. Then, how long was your basic training there?
8 weeks.
And after your 8 weeks there, what did you think about that? That must have been something different.
Oh, it was, but I had no problems. My attitude was, hey, so many others have done this, and I had no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
In fact,
Were you in shape then?
yeah, I'm in better shape when I finished, and I earned the Soldier of the Month one time.
Did you really?
And, yeah.
Oh,
So they liked me, and I got along fine. I didn't have any problems.
I was stationed at Fort Knox when I got my final duty station.
Misery Hill wasn't any fun, but
Well, I worked at the hospital there. Did they have what they call Ireland Army Hospital there? Do you remember?
yes, it was.
Okay.
It was new then. In fact, they were building it that time. It wasn't open. The hospital facilities then were still in old World War II style buildings, as were our barracks.
Yeah. Now, after your basic, where did you go?
Well, they assigned me to clerk typist school, and I thought, well, that's fine, because I was the fastest typist in my high school class. I don't have a problem with that. So I went over there and sat for 2 days, and then a sergeant came in and said, you come with me, and put us on a truck, myself and another young man, and dumped us off at the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment headquarters.
Is that who you clerked for, or what did you do there?
Well, they immediately assigned me as a company clerk and headquarters company of the 2nd Battalion.
All right.
And
Was that an armored unit?
yes, right.
Okay.
And the first person I met there said, well, we are going to Germany in 3 months. And myself and the other fellow that was with me, we were the first 2 men assigned, other than the cadre that was already there, to be in the headquarters company of the 2nd Battalion. And then that day, they said, you're going to be company clerk, and so they took us to that company area. And every day thereafter, we would receive maybe 6 troops, or 8, or 10, or 3, until they got the battalion up to strength to get ready to go to Germany. It was quite an exercise, and it was termed Operation Gyroscope.
Gyroscope.
Yes, it was a new deal in that it says, hey, we are going to replace, I believe it was either the 3rd or the 6th Armored Cavalry in Germany. But instead of them bringing all their equipment and we taking all their equipment. We're identical units, so we're just going to exchange the manpower. They're going to come over and take our equipment, and when we go there, we'll have their equipment. Quite an exercise, and it worked pretty well.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went to Germany?
Yes.
You were stationed outside the States for a while.
Right, almost a year and a half. See, we went to Germany, I believe it was in February of '57, or maybe January, February, and I didn't stayed over there until June of '58.
You, 58, 57, that era, there was some pretty significant international events occurring at that time while you were in Europe?
Yes, right, right.
And how did you react? I mean,
well, I was stationed in Landshut, Landsshut, Germany, and our assignment, we had 3 battalions. It was the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. We had 1 battalion in Landshut, that's where I was. We had another battalion in Straubing, and we had another battalion in Regensburg. And our job was to patrol and protect the Iron Curtain, the Czechoslovakian border.
Okay.
And I learned later, because at one time I was in charge of keeping inventory of classified documents, some of them, and that our primary mission, of course, was there was always a fear that if the Russians come, they're going to come right through the so-called Fulda Gap, and our job would be merely to slow them down from their advance. And we thought, well, if this happened, they call it the balloon goes off. That was the term they used when the Russians come over. Why we were expected to last like maybe 2 weeks.
You were to be sacrificed.
And that's right. And the main force of resistance would be in France, because they thought, well, the Russians will just come right over Germany. And so I found that was kind of interesting.
Yes. Well, being did you go out into the field on patrols?
Frequently, yes. Yeah. We would have the regular Army exercises scheduled, like field training exercises and battalion training. And we were unusual in the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. We were our next direct headquarters was 7th Army. Most other units would have a division that they would belong to, or a corps, but we were, because we were Army Reconnaissance, our next higher headquarters was 7th Army. So we would go on those Army exercises, if you will, but then frequently, on average of 3 times a month, we would have what's called alerts. They were unannounced. So the alert alarm would go off, and in the middle of the night, it might be 2 in the afternoon, and boy, you had to gather everything up and get on the trucks and go out to an alert area. Then it was determined, well, is something really going to happen, or is it not? And sometimes we would just spend the afternoon out there and come back. Other times we might end up staying a week. And if you stayed, so we never knew. And but we did learn that if the alert lasted over 3 days, then we knew we were going out to the field. So we were in the field a lot, and we'd have to. I was in personnel section then. After I got to Germany, by the way, they put all the company clerks into what was termed a personnel section. And of course, we handled anything that had to do with like court martials, leaves, anything, keeping track of who's present for duty, and handling any paperwork that would refer to the individual soldier, other than medical. We had a medic section, and whether it be processing court martials. I was then they promoted me to Specialist 2, which was, like say, an equivalent to a sergeant, but I had no command authority. And I was enlisted person in charge of that personnel section.
Mhm.
But when we would go to the field for any of the time, well, we would have to take all the files and the typewriters and the
Take them with you?
have to take everything with you in case something did go wrong.
Mhm.
You're in business.
Mhm.
We do the same things in the field that we did when we were in garrison.
Did you, how many people did you have in your unit? You were in charge of this particular
Yeah, in the personnel
department or
section, I think we had 10 or 11,
Uh-huh.
maybe 12. We had a warrant officer. He was in charge, and then I was in charge of the enlisted.
Is that,
It was a good job. I liked it.
You did like it? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I liked the Army. I once considered making a credit. And they wanted me to, I said, hey, we'll give you your commission because we know you had 2.5 years of ROTC if you'll sign up to go to so-and-so for so long.
Uh-huh.
And then you got to serve 3 years after that. Well, I thought, well, thanks, fellows. But I like it and you like me, but I had other plans, yeah.
Did you see were you right up on the border? I mean,
Yes, we
barbed
were.
wire or whatever it is?
Indeed, and I didn't go up there very much because, but from our garrison in Landshut, by the way, which was a beautiful German-built World War II German Army post. Beautiful buildings. Really nice.
There was no
Like a
destruction
small
there
park.
from the war? Was there any destruction there?
No, no.
Okay.
And you could see, like in rooms in our buildings, where they had removed the swastikas and all that. But it was really well done. Parquet floors and all stone, like a small college campus, if you will, a caserne, as they call them. But to get from there to the border, it would be like we were maybe like 30 miles. But we maintained 24 hours a day 3 border camps. And so men from our battalion had to take care of those border camps. And they'd go up, maybe rotate those men, like they'd spend a week or 2 up there, then each company would have to send so many. And the border was well marked. You've never seen anything like it.
Big lights and everything?
Oh, on the Czechoslovakian side, they had great big high towers that would be like something like the fire towers that we used to have out here. But yeah, they had machine guns and weapons up there and big spotlights. But before, on our side, when you got 50 meters from the borders, there'd be like miniature barber poles about 10 meters all the way. But then about a short distance from that, there'd be a big trench dug. And a short distance beyond that would be a triangular barbed wire structure. Then, a short distance on from that, there'd be a fence that was probably, I'm going to say maybe 15 feet high or something like that. And the other side was the same thing. And it was...
that fence was the actual border?
That was the actual border. And all the trees were felled. Of course, it was terrains similar to this, with about higher mountains. And all the trees, you could just see for miles. You could always see that border.
A strip of vacant land.
That's right. And they would have border patrols on their side. If you get up there, they'd just constantly always be looking at you, and they had to. And our positions were concealed, if you will. We didn't have big towers, and strange things that happened up there. Like from one of our posts, you would look across, and there would be like the little fence or something, and when you wake up in the morning, it might be behind you. So they pulled shenanigans, and we did too. But I didn't go up there very much. Used to have to go up there for payroll and all that stuff. But
did anybody ever come across anybody try to escape?
Not in our area that I can recall. One of our vehicles got shot up one time for whatever reason. No one got hurt, fortunately. And you'd hear kind of, again, Mickey Mouse stories.
Did you hear gunfire any? I mean, other than there wasn't much.
Not that I know
Pretty
of.
quiet up there.
Yeah. Right.
Was there any fraternalization back and forth over? I mean, would you at least wave at the
Well, that's an interesting question. Now, I can remember that in some places the border would go right through a village. And there was one place up there, the fence, there was a railway station. And the border went through that railway station. And you'd go in there, and it'd be like walking in this room, and there'd be a big fence, and the soldier would be right there, and you'd go walk in there, and he'd just follow you with his weapon. And kind of make faces at each other and silly things like that.
All right.
But I said, I really wasn't up there very much because it's too busy back in personnel. The field troops were up there all the time.
This was the 11th Cavalry.
The 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment.
Is that called the Black Horse?
That's correct, right.
Okay.
And they served well in Vietnam.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were in Vietnam.
Now they have been deactivated.
They had a black horse on the patch.
That's right. That's correct. Alons, A-L-O-N-S.
And that was, what does that stand for? Alons. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a great outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in our company, we had a lot of good people in headquarters, frankly. Most of the staff, other than, we were all college graduates, we all got along fine. And our cadre, the officers and the cadre, most of them were World War II veterans.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would
Except
be
the
just
younger ones.
Did you get into Germany much, like on leave and things?
Oh,
like
yeah, I traveled all over Europe.
At that period of time, then, what was the German population? How did they treat you at that time?
We had very good relationships, but we worked on it. That is to say, we would have open houses sometimes, and like on Armed Forces Day, we'd have the Germans come and we'd have the tanks out there so that they could get in and look at our equipment. And in fact, we had, on the same concern, 3 barracks of German soldiers. It was a basic training camp for them. And we would have kind of social gatherings now and then. And so we had, well, and in the community of the Landshut, very rarely did, I mean, the community rules, good friendly relations. We'd go down and help build a swimming pool, and always someone would have good, the battalion commander would entertain the mayor and that kind of thing. So the relationship was very good. On occasion, rare, someone might say, GI, go home, if you're walking down the street.
Did you see any remnants of the Nazi?
Not very much. Now, in some areas, like we'd go to Munich, we were about 60 miles from Munich, so we'd go there frequently. And you'd still see some buildings that had not yet been repaired. And even in Landshut, for example, you'd see down in those buildings, there was a big church steeple there. You could still see where bullets had riddled that they hadn't quite gotten around to.
Did you ever meet?
It was 10 years after the end of the war.
Right. Did you ever meet anybody that expressed Nazi sentiment?
Yeah, we had some Germans that worked for us. We had German barbers. In fact, we even hired German KPs, and they go to field assistants. And each company had its own barber. We had our own tailor. And sometimes, like talking with the barber, he was a nice guy. They'd make some comments like, well, you Americans, our army was really better than yours, and just little things like that. But, and then every once in a while, someone would come in to try and sell you something and make some smirky remarks, but just very, very infrequently.
By that time,
good relationship, yeah. Now, there was thing, I do remember that, on May Day, no one was allowed to go downtown because that was the big communist celebration day. And they thought, boy, if we go down there, maybe something could happen, but it never did. But they wouldn't let us go downtown on May Day. That's the big.
Well, you were there about a year and over a
Well,
year.
so when we got there in, I think it was in February, and of '57, and I came home in late June of '58, direct from Germany.
Were you discharged at that point?
Yeah, well, no, because I was obligated to serve 2 years in the active reserve,
Oh,
and then 2 years in standby. So I immediately went into the active reserve here in Portsmouth.
This unit down here on Coles Boulevard?
Well, no, that wasn't built then.
Oh, that's right.
We met down at the old naval, down there at the naval, on Charles Street,
You're right, Charles Street.
right? And it was an artillery outfit.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And so I served in that, again, as in administration for a while. And then at the end of my 2 years, it was either the Berlin Wall crisis or the Cuban Missile Crisis, I've forgotten, came along, and I was extended for a year in active reserve. We'd go to summer camp. So I did that, and then we moved up here. They built this new reserve center. And I was, when we had the dedication there, I was the only man that had the new green uniform.
Oh, really?
So they had me standing
Had you
out
standing
front,
out front.
to meet everybody. Right. And then, so I served that extended year and got pretty near to the end of that. And the Cuban Missile Crisis, I've gotten them mixed up. It was either the one, I got extended because of the Berlin Wall crisis. Then I got extended another year because of the missile crisis, or vice versa.
Okay. Well, then finally, when did you sever all?
Let's see, I finally ended up, so I think it was halfway through 1961,
All right.
something like that.
And you only signed up for 2 years.
Yeah, right. But I enjoyed it. I got along fine, and we had a good.
It was a great experience.
It was, right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you don't ordinarily do in your daily life. People get up, they go to work, they come home.
And being stationed in Germany, at that age, and had never been that far away from home, it was an adventure. And like I said, I'd accumulate my leave, and 2 or 3 of us buddies, we'd get together. We took a Volkswagen and drove for 30 days all over and just had the best time.
Where did you go?
Oh, we went clear down to Italy and Switzerland and France. And then another trip I took where we got on a plane and went to the World's Fair up there in, what was it? And flew over to England and then back to France. So we did all right.
Wow. Have you ever been back?
Oh, yes, several times.
To your post?
Yeah, yes, twice. In the first 10 years, I went back and I rented a car and drove down to Landshut, where the Americans weren't there anymore. The Germans had taken it back.
Oh.
And I tried to say, well, can I go look at my own barracks? No, they wouldn't even let me in. And then I've been back since also.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. And what,
There's a picture.
I was going to ask you about that. Where is that?
Landshut.
Oh, that's on the picture there, going up the steps there.
Yeah.
And that's a picture of the town.
Yeah.
Of Landshut.
Uh-huh.
And there's no part of that where your barracks are.
No, not in that picture.
What river is that?
The Isar, I-S-A-R.
Okay.
Beautiful. It was a beautiful area down there.
I bet.
Yeah.
And
Nice country.
where's your uniform?
Well,
What'd you
I
do for your
gave it all to
uniform?
Mike Russell.
Did you give your uniform to Mike?
Yeah.
So, have you kept in touch with any of your friends from that
Yes,
era?
in fact, this summer I'm going to visit one. I haven't seen him since 1958. We
Oh, really?
exchange Christmas cards, he and his wife, every year. So we decided finally if we'll have a visit. So I'm going to go out, and he lives in Spencer, Nebraska. So I'm going out and visit with him for,
Okay.
just for 2 or 3 days.
Exactly. And then, did you ever see anybody famous, like any famous generals or anything like that?
Yeah, we had a 7th Army maneuver, and it was a real kind of unique experience because all the battalion headquarters, and they were all in one area.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a big tent, and right next to our tent was the mess tent for the officers. And we saw the German General Hans Spidel,
Mm-hmm.
who at one time was Rommel's man.
Mm.
He stayed in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw of course, the 7th Army commander and the NATO commander. I can't remember their names at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were all there at once.
Okay. And did you ever see any famous movie stars, or I mean,
No,
were
we
they
didn't.
coming, that kind of
No,
thing?
uh-uh.
Okay.
No.
Well, Jim, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? You got any tattoos you want to talk about, or anything like that?
No, I don't have any tattoos. Right. But it was a nice experience. I always enjoy it. Well, the college days, they were a great experience. And of course, fortunately, when I was in the military, there was no shooting going on,
Right.
which I'm thankful for. But we were ready.
You just had to be on guard.
Yeah, we were called.
Mhm.
Now we've become known as Iron Curtain veterans or Cold
War warriors.
veterans.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Good. Thanks. Thanks
You're
for
very
everything
welcome.
you did.
Thank you. So,
Great.
I hope that turns out all right.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah, I'll look at it tonight. And,
Okay.
yeah.
And if you got a minute, I'll show you something downstairs. Maybe
Okay.
we should have done it down there, come to think of it.
Is it has